Developments of science and technology in China. China held the world's leading position in many fields in the study of nature, from the 1st century before Christ to the 15th century, with the 4 great inventions having the greatest global significance: paper making, printing, gunpowder, and the compass, the 4 great inventions of ancient China. These are the significant contributions of the Chinese nation to the world civilization. Paper. China was the first nation to invent paper. Before its invention, words were written on various natural materials by ancient peoples, on grass stalks by the Egyptians, on earthen plates by the Mesopotamians, on tree leaves by the ancients, on sheepskin by the Europeans. Printing. Printed in Tang Dynasty. A Buddhist sutra is the first book in the world with a verifiable date of printing. Before the invention of printing, dissemination of knowledge depended either on word of mouth or handwritten copies of manuscripts. Both took time and were liable to error. Gunpowder. Credit for the invention of gunpowder also goes to ancient China. Ancient necromancers discovered in their practice of alchemy that an explosion could be induced if certain kinds of ores and fuels were mixed in the right proportions and heated, thus leading to the invention of gunpowder. The collection of the most important military techniques, edited in 1044 by Zen Jacob, 3 formulas for making gunpowder were recorded: an explosive mixture of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. The compass. Warring States period, the earliest guide tool in the world. The compass, an indispensable navigational tool, was another significant gift from ancient China. While mining ores and melting copper and iron, people chanced upon a natural magnetite that attracted iron and pointed fixedly north. The invention of paper, printing, gunpowder, and the compass reshaped the world. In his words, they outstrip any empire, any religious belief, and any heavenly body in exerting an impact on all humanity. Over the past 4 decades, life in most countries around the world has been changed by advances in science and technology, but none could possibly match the pace or the extent of the change in Chinese life. What China has achieved in terms of scientific and technological advances is nothing short of a miracle. To understand where China is headed in terms of how future technologies could change lives, it's noteworthy to look back at how China's achievements over the past several decades completely changed the most basic aspects of life that many have taken for granted. From kerosene lamp to green brightness, as the country continued to gain economic momentum over the years, its electricity consumption has soared amid the influx of various digital gadgets in the Chinese households. Behind the vicissitudes of life is the country's electricity revolution that has rendered different sources of power an increasingly important part of its technological rise. With a national network of UHB transmission lines in place to transmit energy over a long distance, linking far-flung interior regions with abundant solar, wind, hydro, and nuclear power to energy-thirsty coastal regions, China has taken the global lead in enabling efficient, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly power transmission. The transition underway toward renewable energy, notably solar and wind power, is considered as the cornerstone of the Chinese economy's aim to hit peak emission by 2030 before becoming carbon neutral by 2060. From mail carriers to 5G network, another high-profile technological miracle is the giant leap China has taken in eventually establishing itself as a world leader in 5G. To the extent of unnerving the US, which has gone to extreme lengths to sanction Chinese 5G equipment vendors, notably Huawei, industry watchers have said, attributing the feat to the country's continued forward-looking commitments to updating its telecom infrastructure. The eagerness for the arrival of mail carriers to make a delayed connection with your friends or family members, and the excitement of making a call on a public rotary dial telephone among the common things in the earlier decades were only emblems pictured in some TV episodes or movies of the era. With a 1 billion strong population of internet users, the country is now acknowledged as the global paradise for mobile communications, where tech-savvy users with at least one smartphone are now deeply immersed in a mobile internet-linked world. Real-time video calls or conferences, geographically unbound mobile payments, shopping, food ordering, and taxi hailing, among other activities that are all powered by the country's almighty mobile network. China, for its part, has been pushing even harder into a head start in next-generation wireless communication. From isolation to high-speed travel, Beijing-Shanghai HSR, one of China's busiest and fastest rail lines, carried 1.35 billion passengers during its first decade of operation, running a distance equivalent to approximately 40,000 revolutions around the globe. It takes only 4.5 hours between the two major cities, compared with nearly 17 hours in the 1980s and the green-skinned train. Not stopping its pursuit for more advanced HSR technologies, China is among the first in the world to introduce new technologies such as autonomous train operation, as evidenced in the high-speed railway line connecting Beijing and Zhangjiakou, the cities to co-host the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. From stamps to facial scan, as a consequence of the country's stunning leap toward being a trendsetter in AI, face recognition-enabled ticket checking machines have been deployed in a growing number of railway stations across the country. Face recognition clocking-in machines are also becoming commonplace in the country. Thanks to broad-based applications of AI technology into everyday life and the workplace, these technological advancements help in the quick and effective tracing of virus infections, with the country ahead of other major economies and emerging from the COVID-19 pandemic. From maps to navigation satellites, last but not the least, a number of milestones China has hit in the aerospace spotlight, the country's enviable miracle in space technology, backed by efforts of several generations of China's space industry experts to turn the country into a space power. An autonomous driving car packed with vegetables, fruits, and fresh seafood was driving to a residential area in Beijing's Shunyi district in July 2020 when the coronavirus epidemic put many people to stay at home. With the last BDS satellite successfully sent into space in June 2020, it marked the completion of the country's domestically developed Bay-2 constellation. The satellite system has now become part of usual technological advances in China in the space area.
Developments of science and technology in Asia. In Russia, in the historical perspective, the scientific and technological sector of Russia has developed in a specific way, basically different. All scientific achievements are put into practices through a network of branch research institutes operating in basic sectors of production and in the social sphere. It is in these sectors that new technologies, industrial samples, pilot series of science-intensive products, and long-term models of social and economic advancement are developed. From the 1950s to the 1970s, a number of target programs for creating highly efficient life-supporting systems and establishing conditions for the country's sustainable development were implemented. The most important of them are, first, we have a development and production of powerful earth-moving and transport machinery. It is walking excavators with a 25-ton dump trucks, and etc. It is providing conditions for substantial progress in the mining industry, land reclamation, and hydrotechnical and industrial construction. Secondly, we have the fundamental new methods of welding technique developed in Russia lead to a real revolution in shipbuilding and construction of a reliable system of pipelines to transport oil and gas or over long distances. And lastly, we have a development of high voltage electronical equipment and power operated drive systems, made it possible to convert railway transport to electric power, transfer electric power over super long distances, and to establish the unified energy system on Russia's vast territory, a globally unique achievement. The technological advances and purpose-oriented approach has been in full conformity with the practice of overall centralized planning and administration of the economy. Such an approach like science, technology, personnel, and production ensured a comprehensive solution of existing problems and mobilization of all intellectual and material resources. It enabled the realization of objectives, development and mastery of structural technologies, ensuring a real advance in the basic sectors of economy, so as to create life-supporting systems in the shortest possible time. Its high efficiency has proved especially valuable in critical situations when the country's survival and independence were at the stake.
Indians have played an important role in the field of science and technology. The Indus Valley Civilization, Vedic Age, and later periods saw great achievements by Indians in the field of science and technology. In modern times, many Indian scientists and mathematicians have done phenomenal work, and some of them even received awards like Nobel Prize for their contributions to science and technology. India belongs to the select group of countries that have developed indigenous nuclear technology. India is among the few countries which have developed ballistic missiles. In the field of space science, India has the capability to launch GSLV satellites. India ranks third among the most attractive investment destinations for technology transactions in the world. Modern India has had a strong focus on science and technology, realizing that it is a key element for economic growth. India is among the topmost countries in the world in the field of scientific research, positioned as one of the top 5 nations in the field for space exploration. The country has regularly undertaken space missions, including missions to the moon and the famed Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle or the PSLV. India is likely to take a leading role in launching satellites for the SAARC nations, generating revenue by offering its space facilities for use to other countries. As of November 2021, the number of universities in India stood at 1,019. These are some developments in India. Development in defense technology, development in the nuclear energy sector, and development in space technology. Some of the recent developments in the field of science and technology in India are: in November 2021, the Ministry of Science and Technology and Ministry of Earth Sciences launched India International Science Festival 2021, a unique platform with its theme being celebration of creativity in science, technology, and innovation for a prosperous India. And Atal Innovation Mission and Vegan Presser collaborated to drive synergies between Atal Tinker Labs and Vegan Presser's unique platform Engage with Science. The new Insolvency Code. The new Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016, enacted on May 28, 2016, consolidates all rules and laws relating to insolvency into a single legislation. Renewable energy. The government of India has set a target to install 175 gigawatt renewable power capacity by the end of 2022. This includes 60 gigawatt from wind power, 100 gigawatt from solar power, 10 gigawatt from biomass power, and 5 gigawatt from small hydropower.
Science and technology in South Korea has advanced throughout the decades. The advancement of science and technology has become an integral part of economic planning in South Korea. Fast-growing industries have created a massive demand for new and more advanced technologies. Here are some of their developments. First is inflatable isolation wards. Mobile clinic modules were designed in response to negative pressure ward shortage, serving as a bridge between COVID isolation facilities and hospitals. The modules can also be used as intensive care units, as each module may be configured to serve different needs. The basic mobile clinic module, or MCM unit, is made up of anteroom, a toilet, and a patient room, which can be set up in approximately 15 minutes. A basic MCM intensive care ward can be built with 8 basic units in approximately 2 hours. Second is innovative educational device for blind and low vision users. The DotPod is an assistive technology device for users who are blind or have low vision. Its versatile multi-line tactile display is a world first according to creators Dot Incorporated. Not only does it enable users to read text ranging from emails to lengthy books via braille, it translates visual data into a tactile form. Designed with educational settings in mind, the DotPod makes it possible for students to view mathematical shapes, charts, and graphs in real time as they are displayed on a digital board in a classroom. It also means students can design their own visual elements in programs like Excel, Keynote, or PowerPoint. Third or last is software that predicts cardiac arrests. VonaMed Deep Cars is an AI-based medical device that analyzes the potential risk of cardiac arrest based on 4 vital signs: blood pressure, pulse, respiration, and body temperature. By analyzing electronic medical records, the device predicts the likelihood of patients in general wards experiencing cardiac arrest within the next 24 hours. This provides constant monitoring of patients even as resources are stretched thin during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Development of science and technology in Japan. Japanese industrialization began in the earnest soon after the Meiji Restoration in 1868. The Industrial Revolution was an era of transitioning to manufacturing processes. It was a new way for the world to live. The Meiji era was the Japanese transition from being isolated to its now modern self. The silk industry began between the 1894 and 1895. After World War II, Japan rebuilt its economy by consciously investing in quality engineering to improve on important technologies. Japan invested large amount on research and development fundings. Japan was the first non-Western country to take on the Western technological and organizational advances of the century. Tokaido Shinkansen. In 1964, Tokaido Shinkansen opened. This is a high-speed Shinkansen line, which is a network of high-speed railway lines. It opened between Tokyo and Osaka. The Tokaido Shinkansen line also marks a turning point in railroad history. In 1964, became the first high-speed rail line in the world. More than half a century later, the Tokaido Shinkansen lines remain on the forefront of railway technology. It is also still tied to Japan's rich history. Japan in the 60s. Honda is the largest motorcycle manufacturer in Japan. It was incorporated as Honda Motor Company in 1948 and began producing motorcycles in 1949. Honda's first automobiles debuted in October 1962 at the 9th Japan National Auto Show. The cars on the display are the T360 mini truck, S360 sports car, and S500 sports car. The first quartz wristwatch was introduced by Seiko on December 25, 1969. On October 1, 1969, the National Space Development Agency of Japan, NASDA, was established under the National Space Development Agency law to act as the nucleus for the development of space and promote the peaceful use of space. Japan in 70s. 1974, Hitachi Ltd., founded in Japan, produces its first IBM-compatible mainframe computer. 1977, Nintendo introduces its first video game console, the Color TV game. Japan in the 80s. 1981, Toshiba enters the market for laptop computers. 1982, Honda is the first Japanese company to manufacture cars in the USA. 1983, Nintendo introduces the video game console Famicom or Nintendo Entertainment System. 1985, Nintendo releases the first Super Mario Bros. Video game. Japan in the 90s. In 1997, Toyota introduces the Prius, the world's first commercially mass-produced hybrid automobile. The Akashi Kaikyo Bridge, linking Shikoku with Honshu, opened in 1998, becoming the largest suspension bridge in the world. Japan in the 21st century. 2007, Toyota passes General Motors as the world's largest car manufacturer. 2009, Japan's Toyota overtakes General Motors to become the largest car maker in the world. December 2010 to 30% of Japan's electricity is nuclear generated. Japan in the present day now embodies the largest city in the world, Tokyo. Education and work are valued very much, which is the main reason for economic and technological growth. Japan today is the largest metropolitan area and has one of the largest technological industries. Technology has shaped Japan's culture, in which technology helped Japan forward politically, economically, and socially.
Singapore's science and technology transformation over 50 years mirrors her remarkable leap from survival to excellence. 50 years ago, technology served a functional role. Today, it is the central engine powering an ambitious economy. Some of Singapore's developments. National Technology Plan 1995. Focusing on economically driven R&D, the NTP's execution was spearheaded by the NTSB with the injection of 2 billion Singapore dollars for its fulfillment. The 5-year plan served as the blueprint for R&D development in 9 sectors: information technology, microelectronics, electronic systems, manufacturing technology, materials technology, energy, water, environment and resources, food and agrotechnology, biotechnology, and medical sciences. National Science and Technology Plan 2000. The second 5-year plan doubled the budget to $4 billion to build on the much-needed efforts to develop Singapore's S&T infrastructure. The 9 sectors earmarked as part of the Singapore Strategic Economic Plan continue to benefit from the focus of strengthening the local labor force and indigenous R&D capability, as well as greater support for industry R&D. Science and Technology Plan 2005. Another 1 million Singapore dollar was added to the original budget to 7 billion Singapore dollars. Where 5 billion Singapore dollars was managed by NTSB with the remaining allocated EDB. NSTB worked to develop the nation's human and intellectual capital, whilst EDB pursued industrial capital development. The number of research scientists and engineers in Singapore grew significantly, from 28 in 1990 to 87 per 10,000 labor force in 2004.